Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Moderator, Your Excellency, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Your Excellencies, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, wassalamu alaikum, peace be on all of you. With the tears of the Iraqi children still wet on our faces, with the cries of the torture victims in the exhibition still ringing in our ears, and with the magnificent speech of Dr. Mahathir inspiring us, we begin our concentration on the great issues raised in that speech. Malaysia is truly fortunate to have had such a leader as Mahathir. And the world is fortunate that God has given him, and hopefully will give him, many more years of retirement from Malaysian politics to play the role in the world that he is now playing. In the short period I have to address you, 20 minutes might not seem short to you, but nowadays at my age I'm used to speaking for 60 minutes or more. And with so many case studies of the failures of the international organizations to deal with these issues of war, I have time to deal with only 4, the first of which is the most recent. On the 27th of December last, less than 12 months ago, the State of Israel, in its stylized way, launched a massive bombardment of an entirely captive, virtually defenseless civilian population in the Gaza Strip, a territory which has been occupied and besieged for more than 40 years in defiance of international law, in defiance of United Nations Security Council resolutions, where 80% of the population are refugees, and therefore the international legal responsibility of the international community, where 80% of the people are living on $1 a day, and 80% of the people are unemployed, a territory, the most densely populated piece of land on the earth, with only one entrance and one exit, controlled by the people who were about to launch the bombardment. Far from coming to the defense of those for whom they had legal responsibility, the international community stood by, except where it was actively collaborating with the aggression, and allowed a massacre, a modern-day massacre of men, women, and children to take place. Over 22 days, 1,416 Palestinians were killed. The vast majority of them civilian people, the majority of them women and children. Thousands more were maimed. Hundreds of new orphans were created. Schools and hospitals were destroyed. Paramedical facilities and ambulances deliberately targeted. Illegal weapons, never mind the terrifying nature of the conventional legal weapons, illegal weapons were deployed, and we saw them live on television. We saw the white phosphorus gas. Imagine a country calling itself the Jewish state using poison gas against captive civilians who had nowhere to run to, nowhere to hide. And we saw that phosphorus gas rain down not just on the hovels of the refugee camps, not just on the poverty-stricken urban concentration of Gaza, but upon United Nations facilities themselves. United Nations compounds containing United Nations food deliberately targeted and burned. United Nations schools and clinics hit by a blizzard of phosphorus and other banned and illegal weapons. And still, the international community remains silent, or at least inactive. On the 10th of January, in the midst of this disastrous onslaught, announced in London the creation of Viva Palestina, which was determined to take convoys of aid from all parts of the world to arrive at Gaza, besieged. Besieged, moreover, because in the Arab world's only ever free and fair election, they had elected a government of which London and Washington and Tel Aviv did not like. So much for wars for democracy. The Palestinian democracy has been drowned in siege and blood. We left England with a convoy of hundreds of vehicles, hundreds of British citizens. We drove through France and Spain, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and waited at the gates of Gaza until they were opened. The whole population of Gaza, the entire population, came out to receive our convoy, our caravan. And we were momentarily very proud of ourselves until we viewed the sea of troubles in which we were merely a drop in the ocean of the relief that was necessary. I spoke to the children who had lost their parents, the parents who had lost their children, the homeless people now living in the rubble, 80,000 houses destroyed in 22 days, 80,000, not one of which has been able to be repaired because of the siege. I spoke to one girl in particular, whose testimony I must bring you here in Malaysia. She was 9 years old. She was staying with her grandmother when she received the news that her house had been destroyed and her mother and her father, all 5 of her brothers, had been killed. She was now quite alone, an orphan amidst the rubble of the family home that had been hers. And she asked me this, and I'm asking you. She said, where is this Arab world they teach us about in school? Where is this Ummah they teach us about in school? Why did they leave us alone to face this? What did we do to deserve to be left alone to face this? And so I determined upon a second convoy, this time from the United States of America, and led by our sister, the hero, Cynthia McKinney, and others, recruited for the convoy when she was still in an Israeli jail, having been seized from a boat trying to enter Gaza by sea. On the 4th of July, when else, we left the United States with hundreds of Americans, and we made our way to Gaza. We faced many difficulties in Egypt, about which least said the better, because we intend to go back to Egypt over and over and over again until this siege of Gaza is ended. And on the 6th of December,